Uh,
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, June 27th, episode 2 of the Rise and Grind podcast. My guy, CO. CO, I know you've already been up and at it. What did you do today? What was your workout?
Shoulders and arms today. Did a little treadmill work, and then I ran a mile, and also ran some hill sprints at the end of that. So it
Okay,
was really good today.
that's good. Good work. Love it. Definition of Rise and Grind. All right, CO, we got about 5 or 6 things to talk about today. We're going to get right into it. We're going to start off with a topic that is very controversial. It's going to be interesting to see what a lot of people have to say this. But we're both athletes. We've both done some coaching since we've done playing, stuff like that. So this is the question for you. Based on all the sports, who are the best athletes? And we're even going to throw in there power lifters, bodybuilders, whatever it is you think that could be considered a sport. Pickleball, you got everything these days. So what is the best athlete and why? And then we'll go from there.
Like you're talking sport wise,
We're
is what
talking
you're saying?
sport wise first, yes.
I'm a, I, I've been like dead set on this forever now. It's basketball players, in my opinion. Like you gotta have an insane amount of condition. You gotta be able to run. You gotta be able to jump. You gotta be able to be fast. You gotta be able to move side to side. Um, and another thing I've noticed, like for example, I'll use this. So football players, like straight football players who try to play basketball, just don't like look right.
Yeah.
But if you throw a basketball player in any sort of like one-on-one situation in football or anything like that, you can even throw in baseball or track or anything, they're still going to excel. So that's why I feel like basketball players are the best athletes. Football players might be the strongest or close to the strongest, but overall athlete, it's got to be basketball. I don't think it's close personally.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. And people are probably gonna think we're biased because we're basketball junkies. And I get in
Mm-hmm.
this argument with my buddies all the time. But for me, I would say basketball. There's a few football guys though that I think are close. They belong in that conversation.
Yeah.
But overall, I agree with you. Basketball is like the only sport, and I think the NBA hurts it a little bit because of how much they blow the whistle and the cameras are in their face, and you get to see these guys complain. But in basketball is the only sport, in my opinion, that when you're on the court and you're playing, you don't get to take a play off. If you take a play off, you get exposed at the high level. And people don't understand that because they watch LeBron and how easy it makes it look and all this stuff. And they see like, oh, he's not playing hard. They don't understand it. Like these guys, this is 5 guys. Like if you take a playoff, you're screwed. Like in football, I know this from playing, and I only played high school. I didn't play the highest level. You played a little bit. You played at a little higher high school level than I did. Team was a little bit better. You guys always are in the States, winning state championships, stuff like that. But like I know as a defensive end, if the ball was ran the other way, like yeah, I might hustle over at it, but most of the time I don't got a chance of making the play. Like that's basically like taking a play off, and then I get to huddle. Like in basketball, you might get put in a ball screen action every time down the court. Like there's no hiding. Like it's just it. I think that basketball is the one sport that they find your weaknesses. Like you have to be at such a high level as an athlete at all times, or you will get exposed. And now I'm talking that's at the highest level. Obviously, each level you can hide those weaknesses a little bit more and more because you play against guys that have weaknesses as well. But here's what I'll tell you, and I tell this all the time, and people get so mad at me about this. I got a lot of soccer junkies that I talk to, right? I'm not a big soccer junkie, but I like watching the World Cup and all this. I told them this when the USA was playing the men's, and they made the qualifying or whatever, and they got in the World Cup, but when it really came down to it, and they made like the final 16, they got their doors beat off of them. Like
Yeah.
I said, give me the best athletes. Give me LeBron. Give me Tyreek Hill. Give me Ocho Cinco out of retirement. Like and let these dudes have 2 months to train, and they're gonna go compete in the World Cup better than these guys that the United States has found right now. Like I'm just watching these guys, and I'll tip my cap. Like Messi is a dog, but I'm watching Messi, and he's just not on the same level as an athlete as these other like LeBron and like I said, DK Metcalf. Like get me him, let me have him on the soccer field. Like there's no chance. Like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, these guys, like they're if you give them 2 months where they just get to focus on soccer, they're going to compete. Will they win the World Cup? I don't know. They may get out X and O'd and they might get outskilled a little bit by the best players in the world, but they're going to compete. They're going to, I would be willing to bet a lot of money that they make the Final Four. Give me like LeBron in the goal. Like you've never seen anybody playing goalie like that before. Like, so that's why I just say I've argued that LeBron may be the greatest athlete of all time. It's
I
just
agree with you 100%.
the way he moves and the way he's done it at such a long time. And
Mhm.
it's been crazy for me as a fan, and we'll talk a little bit more about LeBron later. But I hated LeBron growing up because I was such a diehard Kobe fan. Like you can see my Kobe pictures in the back. I love Kobe, man. RIP to a GOAT. But LeBron has just continued to do it basically mine and your our whole lifetime. Every year, LeBron is in the conversation to win a title. Is he the best player in the world? Like, it's just crazy to think about that. And he went on that stretch where he made 9 or 10 NBA finals in a row. And, like, it's just absurd. And some of the competition he was playing, and you just watch this dude, and I think to myself, you got Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, Tiger Woods. Like, I'm a little biased. I throw Tom Brady in that. Obviously, he's not athletically as gifted as them, but when you're talking about competing and doing your sport at the best, at the highest level, Brady's in that conversation. Serena Williams, like we have all these people. And I just think what LeBron, this dude was 17, 18 years old, and people were like, this is the king. Like this is the chosen one. And he has
He was
lived.
getting compared to MJ and everything coming out too, and the people were saying like if he didn't live up to at least him, he would have been a bust. Like
Yes. I mean, he's the
some
only athlete that I know that every year, if he doesn't win a title, he gets criticized. Doesn't matter who's on his team, what are the circumstances, that if he didn't win a title, it was like, oh, this dude failed. This how many titles can you win? You know what I mean? And some of the
exactly.
plan. So I agree with you. Like, I think basketball players are the best athletes. Conditioning, you got to be in great shape. Like I said, you got to play defense, offense, you got to have the ball. Like other sports, you get to take a playoff. Not all sports, right? Like tennis players are in better condition than basketball players. I'll give you that. Like tennis athletes
Yeah.
are underrated. But it's a little bit different, right? Like they're not necessarily doing a lot of jumping. Like it's just a different type of movement. Like a tennis player almost needs to be in their own little category because those guys like Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic, like those three they're freaking crazy if you really watch them, like insane. But if you're talking basketball, football, hockey, baseball, you want to throw those in there. Those it's definitely the basketball players are the elite athletes. I don't even think I agree with you. I don't even really think it's that close. Like I said, I think you could pick a handful of football players that belong in that conversation. There's just some football dudes based on their size and the way they move. It is crazy, but I agree. Most football dudes that think they can hoop, it's not like a fluid hoop. Like, uh,
No.
like it's just different. Like usually they're about bodying dudes because they're bigger than them and they might dunk it or something, but they think that's cool. But like in the NBA, that shit's getting tossed. Like they don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna happen. But there are some football dudes. Like I've seen Miles Garrett play a little bit of hoop. It's crazy that a dude that size can move like that. So that's
Mhm.
what I'm talking about. Like obviously Tyreek Hill is crazy in his own, though, just the way he moves and stuff. And then like we mentioned, DK Metcalf. I've had some dudes in the NFL. Like To is a guy that comes to my mind. Like another big dude, Kelvin Johnson. Like those dudes are elite athletes that can do some crazy things. So now I'll ask you this because I already know I got a couple baseball junkies that are going to respond to me. They're going to be blowing my phone up. They say hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in professional sports. Do you agree with that?
It's definitely up there. I'm not gonna say it's the hardest thing to do, but hitting a 95-mile-an-hour fastball is definitely tough. I played baseball growing up, so even when you were seeing pitches probably 75, 80 miles an hour, that was still tough. Add more speed onto that. I could see how it could be one of the toughest things to do in any sport, though.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, I'd probably say it is the toughest, but I think there's a lot of things. Like I think being a kicker in the NFL is very tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think winning a major in golf is extremely tough, and it just gets tougher every year because there's so many good golfers now. Golf is growing so much, but winning a major, not talking about just winning a golf tournament, winning a major championship is so difficult. But there's a lot of things, I mean, like that you could put up there. But I mean, hitting a baseball is tough. But what I don't like is when baseball players are like, "Oh, baseball players are the best athletes because that's the hardest thing to do." Like, no, that doesn't make you the best athlete. It's just difficult to. That's one thing in your sport that is difficult to do. Like, I think of baseball sometimes and some of the guys I see out there that are playing and succeeding. I'm like, right away, that takes away being the best athlete based on some of the dudes that are out there playing.
I agree 100%. There's like there's like each sport has its own tough things, I guess. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like
Yeah.
basketball, you gotta be in really good shape, be able to move, jump, and all that. Football, you gotta be strong, you gotta be fast, smart. Like each sport has its own
Yes.
tough thing.
The thing about basketball that I think people don't understand, and I mean, I guess every sport has this grind, but when you get into the playoffs are amped so far up in the NBA that when you get to the playoffs, if from first round to the NBA finals, that's like a whole nother season.
Mm-hmm.
And so then most of these guys in their prime that are really, really good, they make a stretch in 10-year span where they play in probably somewhere to 3 to 7 conference finals, whatever. That's a long stretch. That's like they've played 2 or 3 extra seasons. And that's what I tell people about LeBron. LeBron has played 5 extra seasons at least. And then you're not even throwing in the Olympics and all that stuff. And people just don't understand. Like, it's crazy. Like, they just don't get the extra level. Now, don't get me wrong. Every sport, when you get to the postseason, gets amped up. But I would say basketball is the one sport where a guy like LeBron, Steph, MJ, Kobe, when they were in their prime, they were in the conversation every year. Other sports, you don't necessarily see that guy. I guess you could say Brady is one of those guys in football, but usually in the other sports, you see different champions quite often. But basketball's been the one sport where I think the best players tend to hold their spot for 10 years or so.
The crazy part about it is like when LeBron had that stretch where he went to 10 straight finals.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He probably had the better team, overall team. What do you think? 3 times?
If that. Yeah,
If
I mean,
that.
I would say he obviously everybody clowns him for losing to the Mavs, but
Okay. Yeah,
people,
respectable.
and I would say the Heat were better. Don't get me wrong, but people don't give the Mavs enough credit. Dirk had one of the best postseason runs of all time. Jason Terry balled out.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Kidd was solid.
J Kid.
Shawn Marion was solid on that team. And people clown JJ Barea, but they don't understand he was good that year. Like he had a couple
Yes.
of year stretch, and JJ Barea was the X factor. Like LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, they all did their things. Dirk, Terry, Kidd, Marion, they did their things. And it was like, all right, who's going to be that guy that sets either team? And it was JJ Barea. But other than that, like, yes, I mean, he ran into the Spurs. The Spurs were loaded. Ran into
Warriors with KD.
the Warriors with KD or without KD, obviously, have been a force.
Yeah.
We've come to know that. So yeah, it's a crazy. Yeah, I mean, he's never really. Other than that series with the Heat, I think even when they played the Thunder and they beat the Thunder down in that shortened season, I'm not
The
sure.
Thunder were favored.
Yeah, they were good because you had Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. Like people kind of thought the big three of the Thunder were going to be what the Heat were supposed to be. So yeah, it was really interesting. So that's for sure. I agree with you on that. Like LeBron has definitely. That's the thing. As great as he's been the underdog a lot of times, and people don't understand that he still is able to accomplish everything. So all right, the next one is let's talk a little bit about we're gym guys. This is kind of what this podcast is about. The different trainings for each sport, though, and I think growing up, I've coached a lot of youth, and may get back into that. A lot of parents don't understand when you get to the next level, the collegiate level, how different the training is for each sport. Lifting for football to be a D1 football player and lifting for a D1 basketball player is so different. And I don't think people understand that. And they'll go get this trainer or they'll go and get all this. And it's just so different, man. That I want to be able to have people hear that it's so. I don't know that you need to go waste your money on all these trainers, but like if you really want to be a D1 anything, at some point, and we can kind of throw this question in there too. What age do you need to turn that volume up on that specific sport? And with that being said, I think we're both guys where we want people to play all sports. But what is that training that a kid should be doing because it is so different that can get them to the next level? Do they need to focus on one sport, or like is it just getting out there, get better, and compete?
For me, I would honestly say growing up for sure, play as many sports as you can. But if you're like in high school, I look back and I think I probably should have done this toward the end of my high school years. if you want to focus on one sport the last couple years of your high school career, I say do it. Bet on yourself and go all in. But growing up, definitely play as many sports as you can.
No, I agree with you. I've always been this, and when I was coaching college hoops, I wanted to recruit people that were competing. I want to see you compete in all sports, right? That's what I would much rather have you compete. The thing that I would say is I don't think you necessarily have to give up high school sports and to focus. But what people are forgetting now, because you have all these AAU teams, all these travel leagues, all this stuff, is they're not understanding the fact of all these D1, all these professional, I'll throw D2 in there, and even D3 athletes. The time that you need to spend in the gym, on the field, in the hitting cage, whatever, by yourself, is so much more than all these high school and youth kids are doing. You can't just go play games all the time. You got to perfect your craft. You got to master your craft. And that's what a lot of people are forgetting to do now because they think their coach and, I just went and scored 17 points a game in my fourth grade AAU tournament. Like, man, that don't matter. Like, you got to go perfect your craft because if you're scoring 17 points a game, then there's thousands of other kids that are scoring 17 points a game. So what is going to separate you from them? I think I was watching a video yesterday that really hit me, and they were talking about Pat Beverly. And Pat Beverly, for me and you, we probably would sit here and tell you he's a below average NBA player, always has been. And I was listening. He's from downtown Chicago, which has very, very high level high school basketball. This man's was averaging 32 points a game in high school.
It's incredible.
It's incredible to think he can barely struggles to get a bucket in the NBA. And that kind of put it in reality to me was like, basically the guys on his podcast were like, if Pat Bev's getting 32 a game and you're getting 21 with a bunch of bums, like what makes you think, And I was like, that's what a lot of people don't understand. They forget how big the world is and how many good players are. So what you got to be able to do is work when nobody's watching, and you got to be obsessed with that work. So that's what I recommend. If I could tell youth kids when it comes to working out, like, yeah, you want to work out, but you can work out with your teams, with your lifting coaches if your high school has that, and you'll be just fine. But I recommend be in the best shape physically, running, sprinting, that you can be in if you're going to go play a college sport, and then have a core. And because if your core is built, you'll be able to do everything that you're asked to do. The college coaches and the strength coaches, they'll get you stronger. They'll work on your specific lifts. But if you have a core and you're in great shape, then you'll be okay. You'll be able to go in and compete.
100%. I agree.
So we kind of said it. When do you think a kid should start to lift? If a parent wants their kid to lift, because, man, you see some crazy things. I mean, you don't think it's serious until you see a 5-year-old on the bench press. And you think, what in the hell are you doing, man? So what age, CO? I mean, you're a little young. You probably aren't thinking about having kids. I hope not yet. What, if you had a kid, when would that time be that you're going to go show them the weight room? That you're going to go say, this is what it is like. And I guess there's a in my head, I'm thinking, all right, I might have my kid around it. They might joke around, do some body weight stuff, but I'm talking about 4 days a week training. What age should that start?
I'll tell you a little story. My pop showed me. I remember when I went to Western. He was coaching freshman basketball there. He showed me to the weight room. I think it was my summer going into 7th grade.
Okay.
And we'd actually like lift and everything a few times a week. So personally, I would say going into 7th grade, like middle school time. I think that worked best for me as far as learning everything, because you're not too young where you get hurt, but it's not too late to start, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. Like I said, I think about 4th, 5th grade, I'm a believer in body weight. So push-ups, body weight squats, work on some movements with these kids, their running form, all that stuff. But then I think in middle school, you can start to lift weight, but very little, very, very little weight. Just perfecting the forms and getting them comfortable and understand how their body should move, how it shouldn't move. There's just too many times you'll see a 7th grader and then they're trying to bench 185. And it's like, my goodness, like just perfect the form and the movements. That's going to help you so much longer in the long run when you get into high school, and you'll be able to advance and weight so much longer. Like I really look back on, I didn't start lifting until I was about a sophomore in high school, seriously. And I wish I would have probably started in junior high, But the thing was is it was like I just wish I would have been educated. I wish that some coach would have took me aside and said, "Hey, you need to be in here 3 to 5 days a week. You need to be hitting these areas, all that stuff." And so that's what I wish. And I just think that's what it is. I think too many, like we've been talking about these youth coaches and a lot of parents that do it, they just forget about all this stuff. But sometimes in these travel teams and stuff, 1 day a week, 2 days a week should be just body weight, moving the body, sprinting, stopping and going, stretching. I mean, you think about that. Stretching is the most underrated thing in this world. It just gets forgotten as people get older, right? But when you really think about it, you hear about these college teams and these professional athletes, they're spending hours and a day stretching. I mean, that's the difference, in my opinion, is they're just so focused and they focus on those areas. But those are the types of things that I think people forget. Don't skip the steps, right? Like, don't, take every step up the ladder. And when you get to the top, the view will be so much better than if you skip steps and you can only get, 3/4 of the way up there. Like, just take each step and don't rush it. You got plenty of time.
Exactly, I agree.
All right, CO, only got a couple more things. I'm going to throw this at you. I didn't prepare you this, but I thought about this today because I got to do this. When you're traveling, I know people get stressed out about this. How do you get your workouts in? And like, what kind of workouts do you get in? Are you a guy that's going to go waste $100 on a gym pass? Like, it's tough because you think I got to get this work in. But for most people, your diet's going to be a little thrown off because you're out with people, you want to enjoy yourself. So the question is, what should their expectations be when they travel? I mean, again, I think this goes for the person. If you're a bodybuilder and that's your life, yeah, well, you probably should be prepared. You should probably have a hotel room that you can make your little food and all that shit, like do all that. But I'm talking about just the average Joe that works out 3 or 4 times a week to make themselves feel better. And they're kind of in a groove. They got a little routine, but they can do that at home. Like, what I mean? It's the same day, everything. But as soon as you travel, it becomes a different ball game. So what should their expect? Is it just to hit a little cardio on the treadmill at the Holiday Inn? Is it just get out and get a walk? Like, what should the expectations be for all these people that are on the fitness grind? They're trying to get better, but now they got to go travel for a week or two, and they're going to eat some bad food. It's not going to, schedules aren't going to line up. Their spouse isn't going to want to work out. They're on vacation. They're eating donuts. Like, so what is the expectation for that person?
I think the expectation for that person is, it honestly just depends on like where you're at. Like for me, we're going down to a resort here soon. And there's like a whole gym down there. So I'll be lifting. I'll keep my same schedule. As far as 5 to 6 days a week, and then running after some days as well. And then as far as like the nutrition part, I would honestly say just worry about portion control. Don't like go on like a binge or anything, you know what I'm saying? But you gotta have at least some of the discipline to have those not so good foods that you don't have all the time, but the discipline to not overeat, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I agree. For me, like I'm going on a golf trip, so it's just to try to get some work in, like whether it's cardio, whether it's just like push-ups and sit-ups, try to get in a half hour to 45 minutes a day. Obviously, I'll be out golfing, so that's kind of like cardio. I'll be walking around a lot, but like, just to get some work in, to say that I got that work in, just to maintain. Like, I don't want to come back to the gym and be like, oh man, I feel like I haven't been here in 2 months. Like, I just want to be able to maintain, that way I can feel good. And I agree with you. I think that two things that get forgotten: get your water in, right? Get your water in every day, and make sure you get sleep still. Because those are the two things that I think can really throw you off. Is if you're not getting enough water and not enough sleep, well, then your schedule's going to be so screwed up by the time you get back. When we're all on vacation, most of us are going to eat something bad. We're going to eat a little more than we should. But like you said, if you're still getting that work and you're not overdoing it, then you should be okay when you get back. But I think it's a lot of things people have anxiety on, and then it makes it even tougher when you get back because you're tired, you feel like shit, and you're like, oh, I'll just start tomorrow. And we all know how that goes. That leads to the next day and the day after. Like, so I think that traveling it's something that really is tough. Now the world has gotten better. Every hotel pretty much has a gym now. If you really do your work, you can find a day pass at most places for 10, $15. I would say that's worth it if you're going to work out for more than an hour at most of these places. So you can get your work in. You just have to be diligent. And if you're traveling somewhere where it's nice, just get out and walk. Just get outside and walk, FaceTime, call your people that you got to call, and just get out there and enjoy it. So that's what I'll say. I agree with you on the portions, though. That's a big thing. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, CO, the last one. We'll get back to talking about the NBA a little bit. We got an interesting topic here. Oh, one more thing before we do that. Opinions of gyms. So I know we talked about Planet Fitness, Golds, all those gyms last time. But now I got to ask you about those gyms. Like you got Orange Theory, you got a CrossFit gym, you got cycling gyms, you got, I know you got gyms where you go in there and the room is all hot and you're in there for an hour so you can burn more calories because you're sweating your ass off. You got all these gyms and it's crazy. It seems like I'm in a bigger city than you are. It seems like in San Antonio, there's a gym at every corner. Like whether it is, you got gyms that will open the doors, you got night gyms, you got all these gyms that bring something different to the table. And I'm telling you, it's kind of interesting because they all got salesmen, man. They all got those, that are going to change their world. So we talked a little bit about making that decision, but it's like, again, what are these things? What should people be looking at? Should be thinking about? I'll give you an example for Orange Theory. Libby and I did Orange Theory when we first moved down here, and we loved it. But it's $150 a month if you want to go to classes whenever you want.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, the classes are good. They got good instructors. They have you get in there and it's just you don't feel as bad, right? Because you got good people in there, and you can compete. But that's expensive. It adds up quickly. And then if you sign up for a class and you can't cancel 8 hours before, so say you're signed up for the 5 a.m. the night before, and then you got to go into work early, or your kid doesn't feel good, your pet, whatever happens, it's $12 every time you don't show up. So that's adding up quickly, man. Like you can spend $200 a month quickly. So my question is, what should those people that don't know their friends like, man, come to Orange Theory with me, or come to this cycling class with me? What should they do? Like, what should be their process to kind of eliminate some gyms to find out that one gym that's the best for them?
I would say just do your research on all the gyms. Like look up information about each gym and make goals. Trying to figure out how to word this. Go to the gym that helps you best to reach your goals. So that takes a lot of self-evaluation, and then you gotta look at what the gyms offer you. Like for example, the Orange Theory gym, right? If you're not trying to spend a lot of money, but you're still trying to get work in, that might not be the best option because you could drop $200 easily in a month, as you were saying. So I feel like it just takes some self-evaluation and to do some research on all the different types of gyms.
I agree. I think you should always start cheap because you got to be able to prove to yourself that you can go do the grind. And so then it's like, all right, you know what? If you're hitting the rowing machine every day at Planet Fitness, but you're kind of plateauing, then it's time to go to Orange Theory. It's time to get in a class where people are competing and you got a coach and all that stuff. So that's what I think is you should always start. You got to bet on yourself first, right? And get to the point where then you need that $150 or that personal trainer is worth it. So that's always been my suggestion to people is prove to yourself first. Go put 3 months in on your own and then see where you're at fitness wise and where you're at with the gym. So that's what I recommend. All right, CO, we got 7 minutes. This is a big topic in San Antonio right now. My guy, Victor, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, however you want to pronounce it. I've heard about 100 different ways. But they're saying this guy's the next Jesus. People in San Antonio are going off the walls. I hear about it every day. I got people that are thinking the Spurs are going to make the Western Conference Finals next year. Like, it's just crazy.
Goodness.
I got people that are telling me he's top 10 in the NBA right now. Like, it's off the chart. So what are your expectations for Victor in year one? And is he the next LeBron, Kobe? Like, is he going to change the NBA like that?
He definitely has the hype like those two did, but I personally, I don't, until I see something like crazy, I'm not going to be sold on him. He's going to have to show me something crazy in the next couple of years. I think the Spurs will make the play-in next year. I still don't think it'll be really tough to make the playoffs just because the West is so stacked right now.
Yes.
Like you got the Suns, you got the Lake Show, you got the Clippers if they stay healthy. Denver obviously just won a championship. Minnesota, they're on the come up with Edwards. The Sacramento Kings, you got the Warriors, you got all these teams that have had success already, and the Spurs have been down the last couple of years. So I assume that the Spurs will make the play-in. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And if Wemby, I feel like he's going to be less than AD is. That's my prediction for him. That's either going to age very well or very bad. One of the two. I honestly, right now, that's what I believe. He's going to be a lesser version of Anthony Davis.
Okay. I like that. I haven't watched a ton. I've seen some highlights. And I just always think like, I hate people that say that overseas basketball is better. It may be rules wise better, but it's just not the same type of athlete or player. We kind of were talking about that. So I hate when people are like, oh, it's going to be easier. Like, yeah, he might put up some stats because if you play 40 minutes in the NBA, we've seen it. A lot of guys put up stats. If you have the ball in your hand, like, yeah, you're going to get rewarded with some calls and you'll get some buckets, stuff like that. But it's not easier. It's definitely not easier to win a championship. So the thing I want to see, I want him to be held to the same expectations that LeBron was held to his entire career. I want him to have to go through that. And I don't think that will happen the first couple of years. And the Spurs will do a really good job with that. And I think it was a good fit for him to go play with Popovich. And you got Duncan and Ginobili. And, I know Bruce Bowen still lives in the area. Like, you got all these guys that can, be his mentor. But it's going to be very interesting. So that's all I ask for is the same expectation. And when I watch him, I just don't see like when people are like, oh, he's better than LeBron. I'm like, bro, LeBron stepped into the league at 18 and was just taking over games. Like,
yes.
So, I'm not ready to say that yet. So I think I'm going to be one of those guys on Twitter that are criticizing him. Like, I'm going to be like how LeBron haters are. That's going to be me with Victor now because it's just like I just want the same expectations. Now that I live in San Antonio, I would love for Spurs games to get hype. And I would love for them to be good. But now, I don't know what to expect. I think he's probably a little better offensively than AD was. I don't think he'll be as good defensively as AD. So that's not a bad comparison. The question is, you heard him say that he didn't, I don't got to get stronger. I don't got to do this. He's going to have to get stronger. Like, so, or he's not going to stay healthy. Like, that's the thing. So that's going to be the question. I'm giving him 3 years to change his body. Durant never got huge, but he definitely got toned. Like there's a big difference between Durant and Texas in the NBA. Same thing with Curry. Curry didn't get huge, but after he got hurt a couple years, he definitely got a little more buff. Like you can see it in the pictures. So that's my challenge to Victor is like take that serious. If you take that serious, obviously your 7'4" can handle the ball. You are a mismatch against everybody in the league. But if he doesn't do that, he's not going to be able to defend. He's going to get bodied. And the thing is, there's so much hype around him. Other dudes are going to take that shit personal. So that's the thing. And so it's going to be interesting how the old heads, I'll consider Giannis an old head. Giannis, and these guys, they take the hype that Victor's going to get. Like, do they take that personal and kind of say, hey, not so fast?
I have a question for you, actually. What did you think about the Hornets taking Brandon Miller?
I think Brandon Miller's trash. So the thing about Brandon Miller is I think he's got upside, but I wouldn't want the drama. Like, it's just tough in professional sports because you got to pick a guy that that you can trust. It's just like recruiting. I told you I want somebody that's competitive and is obsessed. I don't know that Brandon Miller's obsessed. Like, it's tough because you don't know. We don't know all the details to that story that happened in Alabama. But it's just that's a guy that I think is probably going to have wrong people in his life. And so it's like, do you take a chance on that? I don't know. Like, so yeah, I mean, but Charlotte, they always pick bad players. MJ might be the worst drafter of all time. So, I mean, he does have LaMelo that will help him naturally just because he's got a point guard there.
Yeah.
If Miles Bridges can come back like the way he was, I mean, that was a big loss. People forget that this year. Miles Bridges was balling before he got in trouble or whatever the hell he did. So, yeah, we'll see. I'll give him a chance. But for me personally, I wouldn't want my team to pick him.
I love the pick. Honestly, just because I feel like he's going to play really well, like you said, with LaMelo. I'm interested to see that. Along, like you said again, Miles Bridges coming back, that could be huge.
Yeah. No, they're kind of a wild card. Like they can put a lot of score. They can be like the Kings, in my opinion, where they can
I
go
agree.
score. They can go score a lot of points in a hurry. Just will come down to do they want to play defense at a high level when it matters. So, all right, CEO, we're about to run out of time. So I appreciate you. Episode 2. At the end of the day, this is all about just people getting better. I think watching sports and being around and talking about sports makes you get that little competitive itch. What it makes you just want to go out and do something. So I appreciate your time. Make sure you get that work in this week and make sure you motivate me to get some work in on my trip.
Gotcha, my man. It's
All
a
right.
pleasure.
All right. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
See ya.
See ya.